audit period ended in the host country. Let's say I am talking about UK. UK give me a 9 months time. 31st March is the closing accounting period. 9 months, 31st December. Then I have again 60 days. So fairly 28th February or 1st March. Now this APR 30th June time is applicable on both the companies which are under an obligation in the audit. First company is under an obligation in the host country. Second, where audit requirement is no more there. So which is the 30th June? Because I understood there are two circulars they have issued overlapping on these issues.
So earlier they had mentioned 60 days from the date of audit. Now they have done 30th June.
For both.
Yeah, so now they have not mentioned 90 days. That could be an interpretation that 90 days are there, but now the date is mentioned, and also it is for the wholly owned subsidiary or the JV, in my view.
And they have also mentioned in the case of the APR that it should be based on the latest audited financial statement. Let's say latest audited financial statement is not available and my period is not closing on 31st March, my period is closing on 31st December. What should I do in this?
You will have to approach the RBI. I think that is a practical problem that we have done in one of our clients' case where we had approached the RBI.
And we have a specific exemption.
Yeah, take an extension. Rather than extension we can take from RBI. And we had actually got it.
Yeah.
Post-investment changes are in the investment which I have made. If I am doing any changes, I have to intimate the RBI within 30 days. So, yeah.
If my company is going under liquidation,
For a company?
yes, my boss is going under liquidation, do I need to take a specific approval to the RBI in case of the write-off that could subsequently happen?
Yeah, so that I am covering in the next slide. You are actually ahead of my presentation. JV or WAS may diversify its activity, then I have to report. Step up, step down subsidiaries, I have to report. Alter the shareholding pattern in overseas company, I have to report. So loan is not mentioned here. If my JV is taking a loan, a big loan, then probably some people take a position that even if they take a loan, they intimate to RBI that my subsidiary has taken a loan. So these are broadly the compliances which I need to carry out for an ODI investment. First step would be a board resolution passing in the Indian company that I want to invest overseas. Then if I am acquiring an existing company, then the valuation requirement, I need a valuation report. Then reporting in form ODI within 30 days from the remittance. Then RBI will allot a UIN to me, that is unique identification number. This UIN has to be used for all subsequent investment in that company, or else your remittance will not happen. Filing of share certificate within 6 months and post-investment changes that needs to be reported. So here we are talking about transfer of shares of JV or WAS. If there is no write-off involved, then what could be the condition under automatic route? So if the sale is not resulting in write-off and it is happening through a stock exchange, I can do it under the automatic route. In case it is not a listed entity, then transfer is not happening at a price less than determined by CPA or CA. No outstanding dues from overseas entity. An Indian party is not under investigation, and that 1 year the foreign company has been in existence. So here to answer your question, probably if you are not satisfying any of these conditions, which you may not, because it's a liquidation, so it may be a loss-making situation or something like that, then you may need to approve.
So let's say for past 2 years it was a profit-making company, and this year they are presented with losses and it's going under compulsory liquidation. In that circumstances, do I have to seek a permission from the RBI and just to extend that, since it is a court-driven process in that host country, since it's a court-driven process in that host country, even if I let's say go to the RBI and RBI says no, you cannot go under liquidation, how does it have bearing on the process over there?
So in my view, whether you are getting the money which is you invested,
Let's say I invested 100 million, but I am just getting 20 million out of the liquidation.
then you will have to go for the approval route, because it is not satisfying here. You will have to explain the situation, because it says that if you don't satisfy this condition for a write-off, you will have to go for the approval route.
But sir, the question is again that have to go compulsory under liquidation under the laws of that host country.
Yeah, so then you will
how
have
can I
to.
go to the RBI and say that please do not ask, or if let's say RBI says no, you will have to bring 100 million. I cannot stop the liquidation
No, so
process.
yeah, so here you will get a permission to get 80 or 60 because you have a genuine case to prove that no, the money is not siphoned off, it's a court procedure, it is something genuine and I can prove it. Then you will get the approval to get the lesser amount. They will not say you get 100. They will give you an approval to get 60 or 80.
But that 20 million is already going to come to me. That's not going to stop anybody. It's not nobody is going to stop me from getting the 20 million.
Which 20 million is lost, right?
No, 180 million is lost. I'm
Okay.
only getting 20 million. So nobody is stopping me from receiving that 20 million. The liquidator over there is going to give me that 20 million. And he's saying that CEO of your company is going to end its life. In that circumstances, do I have to just intimate the 30-day intimation process with the RBI that look, my company got liquidated and this is the situation. I'm only getting 20 million out of it. Or there's a certain procedure of approval from the RBI that yes, you can take a write-off in your books and also go through the liquidation process.
I think so it would be advisable in terms of approaching the RBI for it. I understand that you have no option. You are anyway going to get that 20 million and you want that 20 million.
Yes,
Because you lost 80 there.
Correct.
So I think so, but it would be advisable because here the case is also simpler. So you will not face much hurdle. So that is why it is advisable to go there. Then RBI will not come to know. But anyways, you will again have to. You will receive something at least. Nothing. So what? So you are not bringing in anything. I think still as a post investment change you will have to intimate and also go because then there is no approval required to bring the money because there is no money coming in. Then logically that could be the solution.
So in one of our practical cases, we had a case where there was a write-off, and in that case, what we had done is post receipt of money, we filed with RBI the details with the report of the liquidator that stating that only this much is due, and then RBI has not raised any.
They have not raised any question. So probably this could answer your question. She is saying that they have had a practical case and they have done it. So
So they got it.
they have not got an approval. They just intimated the RBI and RBI has still had not taken any action.
No, RBI asked for some financial
Financial-
statements and all of that, which we've given, and we've given the report of the official.
Yeah, but then they would have issued an order, no? Saying that okay. So then it's an approval, no? So the problem is that you took the approval after the transaction. I am asking to take it upfront,
So she took a post-facto.
post-facto approval.
Excuse me, sir. So, we dealt with the transfer of shares in a JV or WAS. And in a case that A is holding into B, 100% and B is holding into C, and we propose that a C gets merged into A, and therefore, A directly holds into C. In this case, when you take a look at a regulation 16, it talks about the transfer of shares by way of a sale. Now here, the sale of shares is not happening. So what is your view? Because if you look at the FAQs to the RBI, it talks about disinvestments, which even includes the transfer by way of amalgamation or the restructuring as well. Well, if you look at the regulation 16, it talks about only transfer by the sale of shares. So can we take a view that RBI is only looking to just looking at the transactions where the transfer is happening only by way of a sale of shares and not otherwise?
You can take that position because your ultimate shareholding is not changing. Because you were holding in A, B and B was holding in C.
Yes.
And you were the entire shareholder. It was a WAS and not a JV.
Right.
So probably then that argument is only something which we can take. Because I don't think what would be the problem in a sense if you look at.
So my question is that while the FAQ talks about the disinvestment, the regulation 16, which has now been amended, it doesn't talk about the disinvestment by way of sale of shares. So can we just strictly look at the language and say that this is transfer by way of a sale of shares, where in my case there wouldn't be any sale of shares, and therefore it should not be.
So here what is happening in this kind of regulation is that there are quite a few statements, not even from ODI perspective but FDI perspective also, where if you read in totality, the interpretation comes something different. So in such cases, generally people go to RBI because it is not like a tax thing where I will take a position and then fight it out. It's better to be on the right side. So
what is your...
I would be very interested to know what you did actually in terms of practically, because my view is again,
saying that this is a scenario that can we look at such a situation in this way.
I will have to check on this. Probably we can take this offline because I can't think of a solution currently on this transaction. So you're saying A into B, B into C, A, B gets merged and A gets the holding of C. So there is no sale as such, but shares are transferred. So what is the solution? So here, if there is a write-off, what an Indian party may transfer by way of sale to another party without prior approval of RBI if the following conditions are satisfied. In case the JV is listed overseas, then I can do it. In case where Indian party is listed on stock exchange in India and has net worth less than 100 crore, I can do it under automatic route. Where Indian party is not listed and investment is less than 10 million, then I can do it under automatic route. Where Indian party is listed company with net worth less than 100 crore, but investment does not exceed 10 million. All these are independent conditions. If I satisfy any of it, I can do it without the permission, or else I will have to go for an approval.
In case there is a change in the shareholding stake and not the amounts that are invested, then we need to intimate RBI.
Post investment changes you will be required to.
Yeah, but basically I as an Indian company has not invested. The subsidiary has received primary infusion from another party, and hence from 100% stake I have in that subsidiary, they now reduces to 20% or 10%.
So it's dilution is happening of your stake, so logically it should be. So here, what are the laws on restructuring of investment, whether I can write off my investment? So under the regulation currently, under automatic route, if you are writing off 25%, you can do it if you are holding more than 51% stake, and a copy of balance sheet showing why you are writing off and what is the benefits you will get out of this write-off needs to be has to be submitted, and you can do it. And in case of unlisted Indian party holding more than 51 shares, write-off to the extent of 25% investment is allowed under approval rule. Let's go to individual investments. Individual investment, there are certain general permissions available. I can get gift of foreign securities from person resident outside India. So that way I can acquire shares. Under cashless ESOP scheme, if I am working for say an Indian company and my group company which is in US is very happy with my performance, they can give me ESOPs, even of the parent company, and that is allowed. By way of inheritance, so if I have some relative abroad, I can inherit shares from them, and once my demise is there, my son, my daughter can also do it, so entire thing is allowed. Qualification shares, some company require when you become a director, you need to obtain some qualification shares, so that is allowed. Then general permission is that USD 75,000 can be invested overseas. Earlier it was 200,000. Again on 14th August 2013, to control the currency, it was reduced to 75,000 USD. But when an individual is investing in an overseas entity, it cannot create a step-down subsidiary. Form ODI needs to be submitted within 30 days, and a lock-in period of 1 year is provided. If any of the above conditions are not satisfied, you will have to go for an approval. What are the obligations? Individual can transfer the shares acquired, as we discussed earlier, based on that conditions. Sale.
Any limit prescribed for getting a gift of foreign securities in individual capacity?
No, gift of foreign security is allowed. There is no limit.
Any financial limit like some dollars or amount?
No, this it will get covered under the general permission, the first bullet, and you may be able to take it.
Suppose somebody is willing to give a US dollar 1 lakh securities.
Yeah. So this, I understand where you are coming from. You are coming from that is 75,000 is prescribed. So how can I get 1 lakh? They are more concerned with money flowing out of India. So your money is not flowing, so they are not worried, even if it is 100,000.
But in such cases, they do insist on proper KYC.
It will be subject to local law, whatever they call it.
Yeah, those laws will anyways apply. Whatever, if there is a gift tax, you may have to pay, depending on that local laws.
Forms already need to be filed for this kind of declarations from this
Form ODI, because it's an investment overseas.
ODI only. ODI form you have
Yeah.
to.
So this LRS, that is Liberalized Remittance Scheme, was introduced in 2004, basically for individuals to giving them certain liberty in terms of what they can invest. Again, as discussed, it was there would be some provision in terms of like for foreign clients who are in India, they have various chartered accountants paying on their behalf. Anyways, you can remit the money. See, in India there is a form for filling taxes. So if that form is online available and your banker is allowing to fill that, and probably once you pay any duty, there could be any return obligation also for you filing return in that country. So I think so the two options could be either you can pay it through someone, or if a direct remittance is possible to the government of that country by filling a form and to the banking channel.
Whether in Burma that payment would be allowed.
Under?
In Burma, whether that payment would be allowed to pay the extra duty.
It would be a current account transaction, so it should be allowed. No, payment of taxes I am talking about. Yes, that property.
Why that property? That extra why that property?
But we were properties anyways now directly or indirectly not allowed.
Inheritance. He's talking of inheritance.
So here we are talking about inheritance of shares and not other things. Property directly or indirectly, why the circular has been disallowed? Sorry, it's prohibited now.
Under inheritance.
Then probably you need to check. I am not so aware on this. So here, as I was discussing, immovable property has been prohibited from 14th August 2013. The limit is 75,000 USD. Earlier it was 200,000 USD. Here, a resident individual can open and maintain foreign accounts abroad with prior approval, without prior approval of RBI, and remittance not permitted to indirectly to Bhutan, Nepal, Mauritius or Pakistan or any country specified as non-cooperative countries, territories or those identified by Financial Action Task Force. Currently there are no countries specified in this second list.
My entity is in not in one of these four countries. Let's say in the United States. It has a bank account in Mauritius. If I need to make a remittance, can I make a remittance to the United States entity which will credit its Mauritius bank account? Or let's take a vice versa scenario. The entity is in Mauritius, has a bank account in US. If I make a remittance to the US entity, US bank account, it will eventually benefit the Mauritian person.
So you are saying a foreign company is having a bank account only in Mauritius.
The US entity is having a bank account in Mauritius.
Offshore.
Offshore.
And if I am making a payment to him or that entity, it's eventually getting credited to Mauritius. In that circumstances, what am I supposed to?
Because if you look at the language, it said directly or indirectly.
So either ways I cannot do it.
I think so you may fit into indirectly here.
Okay.
So what are the regulations towards setting up a branch or rep office abroad? Opening of a branch office or a representative office overseas is allowed. AD banks in India permit to remit funds for initial expenses and recurring expenses. Initial expenses remittance is up to 15% of average annual income or sales of last 2 financial years, or up to 25% of the net worth, whichever is higher. And for recurring expenses, it is 10% of average of annual sales or income of last 2 years. Here, branch office or the representative office office should be conducting normal business activities of the Indian company. So it has to conduct activities which an Indian company is conducting in normal course. Will not enter into any contract or agreement in contravention of the FEMA Act. So my branch also has to comply with the regulations which are prevailing in India. Any funds which are lying there has to be repatriated to India. Any funds rendered surplus should be repatriated, and audited financials of BO RO needs to be submitted to the AD bank. So here
9 days for repatriation of funds.
there is no time limit, but I think so it should be immediately, because once the financials are freezed, there is surplus lying, so that should logically come to India. This form OBR is not specified, it was there earlier in the exchange manual, but still certain bankers are insisting on submitting this form. So now let's take up case studies. So here the first case study is Indian company has invested in UK. Indian company has invested in UK, and now after some period, Indian company is looking to get converted into an LLP. So whether that should be allowed or not.
Not allowed because LLP is not permissible.
So here, what practically people were taking a position that I had invested 400% of my net worth. So this is just one argument which people are taking. I also don't agree with that view, but people say I have invested 400% and now the limit has been reduced to 100%. So I cannot disinvest 300%. I have to look at the condition as on date, whether I am an eligible party as on date. So if I say I was an eligible party on the date of investment, post facto changes would affect my investment as on that date. I cannot make subsequent investment, I agree. This is something which is open, but
100% and 400% they are related to the making investments. They are related to making investment, and again 14th August clarified that this limit will not apply to the existing investment what is already made.
so but it says because the investment, the rationale for that was that as on date the investment was allowed. So here can I say as on date I was a
It is more related to the type of entity rather than financial obligation.
So here you are distinguishing it, but conditions are conditions. So I am taking a position which I am taking for one particular regulation or one particular definition, I will take for other definition also. I also don't subscribe to this view, but it's just the thought which people are looking at.
Other than FEMA, you can convert it to LLP.
Sorry?
Other than FEMA rules, you can convert it to LLP.
Yeah.
What prohibits in FEMA that you can't convert it?
As we looked at earlier, an Indian party definition does not,
Today, when making a conversion, what prohibits him from making a conversion?
because I don't remain an eligible party. So again the
He
question,
doesn't make an eligible party today. That has got nothing to do with his investment maybe 10 years back.
yeah, so if that is the case, RBI should have come out with an FAQ, because for 100%, 400% they immediately came out with a clarification. So here there is no clarification. So it is up to you and me what view I take, what view you take. Because what you are saying is the argument I am putting forth. I was an eligible party on the date of investment. Now I am not. So what? So the second case study is I have an Indian company. Indian company got merged with another Indian company. Earlier preference shares got replaced by debentures as per the conditions of merger. Existing investment was exacted 100%. So here, what is the solution for the Indian company? Because here the problem is that I am allowed to invest 100% of my net worth. That is my capital and my free reserves. So here my capital is getting converted into a loan. So what is the remedy?
The new Indian company can issue bonus shares.
But the word used is the financial commitment. Within financial commitment,
If there are changes within the financial commitment, then there are no permissions.
Financial commitment is for what I can do overseas, what
That
all
is
I can
correct.
invest. I am looking at my net worth. My net worth is 100% of.
But now what I am saying, sir, preference share got converted into equity.
that is the debt, debenture. I am on the point number 3. Earlier preferences got replaced by debenture as per the condition of merger. So first of all, it is transferred, transferor and transferee both are under the permissible entity, that is companies. Then second is within the, because when I say financial commitment, it includes capital contribution, debt to subsidiaries, guarantee, etc., etc. So from preference share, I am converting into debt security.
So what you are talking about is that when I invest in a foreign company,
Yes.
I look at what is my financial commitment.
Correct.
But what I can invest is 100% of my net worth.
That is correct.
And your
That is the
changes
same.
are happening at my level, not at the foreign company's level. What you are trying to say is that if the FCO converts his equity into debt, I should not have a problem. That I also agree. But I am saying the ICO is converting its debt into, equity into debt. And as ICO, I can invest only 100% of my net worth.
Net worth.
And net worth is defined as paid up capital plus free reserves.
You had invested 100% of your last audited balance sheet as per financial commitment at that point of time. So this transaction should not have a bearing on the assets.
So if we start doing this, it would like whatever I am not able to do indirectly, I will do it.
So to that extent it shall be allowed. But the whole question is that a financial commitment is always calculated as per the last audited balance sheet. If at the time of merger your balance sheet gets audited and your net worth gets to that is audited, at that time of particular point of time you may be asked to disinvest to that extent. But if it is not, then since at that point of time it was the investment was correct or it was within the prescribed limits, it should not have a case.
So then what we discussed earlier should also be allowed.
Can we have the language of the circular of debt also?
I don't know this laptop would have it or not.
I think that it should be a perspective. It cannot be like making this kind of changes. It should be applicable.
So you were saying it would be allowed.
It should be because we have to look at the language that it should be prospective. So anything now I am further to be supposed to be get invested, not based on my past performance or investment. That should not be affected. But now henceforth, suppose I want to make a further investment which crosses the 100% limit, then it should be prohibited. It should be like that.
No, then what will happen is that everybody can plan this.
No, it is not a matter of planning. It is now because we are having a problem of the foreign currency, foreign exchange, and therefore the prohibitions is imposed for that the further remittance should not be allowed. Whatever already business, suppose somebody has already put in money of 400%, now bound to be there some changes to be happen in global scenario. So that cannot be stopped. That's all.
No, then we are talking about going under approval. It's not information. Because what we cannot do directly, we are doing it indirectly.
No, but if that is true,
We are changing the substance of the investment.
If language is available, we can debate it is better, I think.
We could invest 100 crores or based on our capital. Now we are
invested as of that date.
as of that date, yeah.
Tomorrow I go into a merger, so something new crops up. Because of that new, can I undo what I have done earlier?
No, so then you approach RBI. No, that is what I'm saying. We are talking about going under
merger.
No, not for the merger.
Then
For that, because of this event which has taken place in my company, I may not be able to comply with the regulations which were there as on date.
that I can implement, that's all.
So again, once you
How
intimate,
do I undo that?
In this case, supposing we have a situation, I have 100%, I have invested today, it is 100% of my net worth. Tomorrow I incur a huge loss because of foreign exchange rate of 70. I have a huge loss by which my net worth goes down drastically and it comes to only 50% of whatever I have invested. Is there the RBI does not provide that I should get back that capital. As on the date when I made the investment, I need 100% this thing. That is my view, but you could.
so you are saying the Indian company's net worth eroded.
Eroded, yeah, substantially.
Because of the loss.
Because of the loss.
And
Dollar
it
going
was
to 80
100%
rupees tomorrow.
$100. I made a huge loss in my Indian operations. Today it's zero.
Okay.
It's a BIFR company, but still my investments
Investments are there. Yeah, probably this could be an argument which we can take.
How can I undo something which I've already done?
Only distinction is that here.
So you can do a disinvestment.
Huh?
You can do a disinvestment.
That's my option.
That